You're watching ABC7 News at 7.
Today, I'm defending America's national security by placing tariffs on foreign imports of steel and aluminum.
President Trump is placing a tariff on steel and aluminum, but the tariff won't apply to every country. Is this the beginning of a trade war? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Conan. Welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on President Trump's tariffs in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. When school kids fight, they wind up in detention. But what do you do when it's 2 school board members and one of them is the chairman? School board chairman Scott Hope says he was talking to a district official after a meeting when school board member Dave Minor called him over to his car. The two argued. As Minor gets into his car to leave and starts to pull away, Hope claims Minor tried to hit him with his car and that he had to jump out of the way.
This weighed heavily on me. This was not a step I wanted to take. Didn't ask for it. But as the chairman of the school board of Manatee County, you know, I saw something and I said something. And that's what we want our students and our teachers and staff to do.
Minor didn't respond to our calls to respond. Police have confirmed they are investigating the incident but will not comment further on the case. Sarasota Park remains closed following a shooting. Police are out in force at Urfer Park. That's where the search is on for suspects involved in the shooting this evening. The park is located on Honore Avenue. No word yet on whether anyone has been injured. An effort is underway to get Venice to waive fees to residents installing solar panels. Residents are charged inspection fees, but the Venice Environmental Advisory Council wants the city of Venice to waive them to inspire more residents to go solar.
It's very costly, and they should reevaluate the situation. Solar is the name of the game, everywhere and any place.
The City Council will discuss it at an upcoming council meeting. If you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, heads up. Contract negotiations between Sarasota Memorial Hospital and Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield. If an agreement isn't reached before the end of the month, it would affect those who are insured by Blue Cross Blue Shield. The insurance company and Sarasota Memorial Hospital are working to reach a contract renewal agreement. If an agreement isn't reached by March 31st, then the entire healthcare system will be considered out of network.
I'm just feeling a little bit of uncertainty. I'm waiting to have some procedures done, and if they fall after April the 1st, what happens? Where do I go? Do I have to start the whole thing all over again? You know, it's just uncertainty.
A spokesperson for the hospital says they are optimistic a resolution will be reached very soon, and we'll have more on this story coming up tonight at 11. Authorities in West Palm Beach are investigating after a child reportedly brought a handgun to school today. The firearm allegedly fell from a kindergartner's backpack. A classroom was evacuated, but there were no injuries. It isn't clear whether or not the gun was loaded. The principal said the child didn't know how the gun got into the backpack and had no intention of bringing it to school. Police are talking to the parents. Tomorrow, Governor Rick Scott will meet with the families of victims of last month's mass shooting at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Raising expectations, he will sign into law a sweeping school safety measure that has sparked pushback from people on both sides of the gun control spectrum. Late last night, the Florida House of Representatives voted to spend $400 million on mental health screening and services and school security. The measure also will raise the age from 18 to 21 and impose a 3-day waiting period for the purchase of rifles. The most controversial part of the measure allows specially trained teachers and staff members to bring guns to school.
Parkland was the worst place for this to happen and the best place for this to happen, because it showed everybody in America that this can come to your neighborhood. If the safest city in the state, if this can happen, it can come anywhere.
I'm going to read the bill, and I'm going to talk to parents. I mean, it's horrible what happened to the 17 families that lost their loved ones. I can't imagine it happened to them. I don't want it to happen again.
The families of all 17 victims of the Parkland shooting have encouraged Scott to sign the legislation. The Florida Senate passed legislation today aimed at tackling the state's growing opioid problem. The centerpiece of the bill may be a 3-day limit on prescriptions for treatment of acute pain. Physicians could prescribe up to 7 days of controlled substances if deemed medically necessary. The Senate agreed with the House to exempt cancer patients, people who are terminally ill, palliative care patients who suffer from major trauma.
It is a painful subject that many of us have experienced in our communities, people we know, people we love. And I'm just so grateful for everyone's support as we've moved through passing of this bill. Mr. President.
The bill will return to the House for final approval before the 2018 legislative session ends tomorrow. The Holmes Beach Police Department is warning about a potential scam. Police say residents have been receiving a phone call with a voicemail message stating they are, quote, the local cops, and a serious complaint has been filed against them. People are then told to return the phone call to avoid being arrested. Don't return the phone call or send money. It's a scam, and if you aren't sure, contact local law enforcement. Now let's head over to ABC7's chief meteorologist Bob Harrigan with the first alert forecast. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. 56 degrees right now. It feels a little bit colder out there because of that northwest wind at 10 miles an hour. This is at the airport. And the pressure now 30-10. That continues to rise. High pressure is building in from the west, and that's giving us that northwest wind flow around that area of high pressure. Current temps across the state now all into the 50s and 60s. 52 degrees now in Jacksonville. It's 54 in Tallahassee, 69 in Miami, and all the winds here out of the northwest. Anna Maria reporting 18-mile-an-hour wind. A little bit protected there at Sarasota downtown. 9, Lakewood Ranch the same, and in Northport it's 10 miles an hour, so a little bit more so at Minnesota Beach at 15. Lows tomorrow to start the day will be on the cold side for Florida standards. We're talking mid to upper 40s into places like Port Charlotte, Englewood, Northport. You'll be right at 40, but it'll feel colder than that with that north wind at 5 to 10. Micah City 39 and 42 at Lakewood Ranch, 46 in Bradenton and 42 in Parrish, 50 Anna Maria. And as I mentioned, the feels like temperature will be a little bit colder than that due to those winds out of the northwest. So keep that in mind when you're sending the kids off to school. It'll warm up a little bit more so tomorrow. We had a high fire danger earlier because the humidity was so low. But that has since expired. And now the GOES satellite imagery is showing us some steady clouds moving in from the Gulf, rotating around that area of high pressure. And it looks as though we'll see a nice day tomorrow. There'll be sunshine, but temperatures on the cooler side. Quite a contrast to what we saw in the entire month of February. So March is starting off exact opposite, below average temperatures. Now we're going to get warm on Saturday. We'll have highs in the upper 70s to near 80 degrees, but just one day only, and then things start to cool down again.
Could use a little rain.
Sunday is when we're going to get a pretty good chance of some little bit more widespread rain.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. And still to come, what to do about tariffs on steel and aluminum. What will it mean for our economy? So stay with us.
Studio Theater presents Blue Suede Shoes, celebrating the birth of rock and roll. From the father of rock and roll, Chuck Berry, to the king himself, Elvis Presley, this musical review features such great hits as Rock Around the Clock, Mustang Sally, Johnny Be Good, and of course, Blue Suede Shoes. Critics are calling Blue Suede Shoes a burst of rock history, dynamic and high voltage. Audiences are calling it phenomenal. Blue Suede Shoes has been held over by popular demand. Tickets can be purchased by calling 941-366-9000 or by visiting FloridaStudioTheater.org.
It's time to take a road trip.
Burn rubber for Birmingham, where you can feed your need for speed at Barber Motorsports Park and Museum. Now this gets my motor running. Meet Iron Men. Hey there, big guy. And make a date with your 9-iron. Feed the animals at the zoo and the birds. Then enjoy the award-winning restaurant scene. Alabama has a road trip with your name on it.
Which one you gonna take?
Our nation's servicemen and women show great courage and leadership, both on and off the battlefield. When they transition to civilian life, they can apply the skills and values they learned in the military to the workplace. That's why the Coalition to Salute America's Heroes is urging employers everywhere to be smart, bet on a vet. Hiring a veteran is also a great way to show your appreciation for them. To learn more, call 1-888-44-SALUTE.
Every week on Animal Outtakes, it's a new animal adventure. The process of milking cows is not like it used to be. We're taking a trip to a dairy farm. And it's an iconic children's toy, the teddy bear. We get up close to the real thing. I'm just not sure we'll be cuddling with this one. Join us this week on ABC7.
Keep up with the Suncoast. Watch your favorite ABC7 shows on your streaming device.
Since he teased the proposal last week, President Trump's tariffs on aluminum and steel have roiled the market, stoked threats of a trade war, even faced resistance from members of his own party. But in announcing the details of the plan, he also indicated some flexibility. Karen Kaifa has the latest from Washington.
President Trump, joined by some American steel and aluminum workers, signing tariffs international allies and Hill Republicans have warned against.
A strong steel and aluminum industry are vital to our national security, absolutely vital.
The tariffs will go into effect in 15 days, adding 25% to the cost of U.S. steel imports and 10% to aluminum. Trump said the tariffs won't immediately include Canada or Mexico pending NAFTA negotiations, and indicated other flexibility.
America will remain open to modifying or removing the tariffs for individual nations as long as we can agree on a way to ensure that their products no longer threaten our security.
The president's idea is to punish countries like China, which has flooded the global market with less expensive materials, and boost U.S. manufacturers, most of whom have welcomed the news.
Ecstatic is probably the best word for it. We've been waiting for this for so long.
But many congressional Republicans, including House Speaker Paul Ryan, have warned of broader economic consequences. Some urge more targeted tariffs rather than risk a global trade war.
I actually think there is a better and more effective way to address unfair trade practices, and that is to go after those practices specifically.
The European Union has already threatened retaliatory tariffs of their own on their American imports from bourbon to blue jeans. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Coming up, an economist and two mostly free traders. A very taxing trapezoid is next. Stay with us.
Loaded with big laughs, colorful characters, and the songs that made the 20s roar, Bullets Over Broadway is bringing musical theater back with a bang. Your attendance is requested at the Players Center for this wild Broadway musical opening February 21st. Call the Players at 365-2494 or visit the website at theplayers.org. This is one Broadway show that is sure to knock 'em dead.
One of the motivating factors for me to become a Big Brother was that I was mentored as a youth. And it was important for me to kind of pass forward the things that were kind of given to me. It's really just as simple as getting to know a kid. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to have any of those other things. You just have to be willing to spend a little time and help mold some young person's life.
In life after the military, it's our duty as veterans to have each other's back. I'm retired Colonel Greg Gatson, and it's my mission to help you get the benefits and services you've earned. If you need to file a VA claim, remember these important steps. Submit an online claim through ebenefits.va.gov. Work with an accredited Veteran Service Organization, or VSO. And if you need to attend a VA claim exam, please go. Visit this website to learn what to expect.
Once you get atrial fibrillation, you need to have a very close relationship with your primary doctor. Prevention is the whole ball game here, because once you have a stroke, you can't undo it. A year without stroke, it's a year that you can enjoy doing the things that you've worked all your life to finally get to do. You took care of yourself. You did what is necessary for you to be around one more year. And then next year, we'll celebrate one more year without a stroke.
A decade of war has taken an unprecedented toll on our men and women in uniform.
Hundreds of thousands of our veterans are suffering from the trauma of war.
At Justice for Vets, we believe that every veteran should have the opportunity for treatment and restoration.
Get involved and go to justiceforvets.org.
Help put treatment within reach of veterans in crisis.
Veterans fought for our freedom. Now it's our turn to fight for theirs.
Welcome back. Are we headed for a trade war? President Trump today signed 2 proclamations levying tariffs on aluminum and steel, exempting only Mexico and Canada. They will take effect in 15 days. A 25% duty on imported steel, 10% on aluminum. The president says it's a matter of domestic economic security. Critics, many of them or most of them in the Republican Party, fear the tariffs will set off a trade war that will drive up prices of cars to cans of beer. And joining us for more are Michael Snipes, an economics professor at USF Sarasota Manatee, Steve Sabato, a longtime journalist, and Frank Patti of the Sarasota Republican Party. So, Michael, let me begin with you. Obviously, these tariffs are somewhat tailored to exclude our neighbors to the north and to the south. Does that do anything about your concerns over a possible trade war?
Well, not necessarily, because if we're looking at who we need to be concerned about if we do get into a trade war, we need to look at, well, what are the countries that we owe the most money to, as they're the ones who are going to be likely to affect us the most. And when we look at the countries that we owe the most money to, we're looking at countries like China, we're looking at countries like Japan, and we do owe money to Canada and Mexico, but it's less, it's a much smaller amount than what we owe to a country like China.
Frank, there's been a lot of interesting reaction, particularly from the Republican Party. Speaker Ryan this week said what this requires is a scalpel and basically not an axe. If you have a problem with China, target China. But by only excluding Canada and Mexico, you are going to be setting up a possible trade war with a lot of our European friends.
I doubt if they're going to go into a trade war. EU is not in great shape, and they're not in shape to go into a trade war. The president will use the saber at that point. We've overdone it in many of our treaties. Take a look at China alone, $375 billion in deficit. Japan, I believe, is $69 billion. I mean, these large deficits. Germany, $65 billion. Something has to be done. And we've tried it before. Nobody listens. Now, I don't know. I'm a free trader for the very most part, but I have the feeling that he's using this as a big stick and then to taper off later on. But he is keeping his promises when he ran.
Right, but Steve, are you concerned what the impact this could have on American, not only American workers, but American consumers if the price of automobiles go up and the price of a can of a beer, as we've talked about?
Well, I mean, that is a concern, and we've already seen China's exports of steel to South Korea increase, which could impact the competitive cost of their automobiles for us. But I have to agree that this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. This was a political promise the president made when he ran. This is a position he's held since the 1980s when he bought a full-page ad in the New York Times to complain about unfair trade with Japan. So it's consistent with a philosophy that he's held for many years.
Michael, we're going to be talking about this in more detail later, but do you think there's an issue here that people really don't understand what would be involved in if there are ramifications from our friends and other countries in terms of retaliation?
Sure, and that is the big concern, is that if we go ahead and do this and we do see retaliation from some of our allies, some that we have trade agreements with, if they drop those trade agreements, the people that we're allies with, that we're friends with, if they drop their treaties, that could really just exacerbate things and make this whole situation a lot worse.
In what way?
Well, if we have free trade agreements with a lot of other countries and they lose those free trade agreements, that could increase prices.
Okay, we are just getting warmed up, and we'll have much more on tariffs right after we check the first alert weather. Stay with us.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
I owed the IRS $20,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
We saved our home and overcame the most powerful collection agency in the world.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 1-800-565-7740. That's 1-800-565-7740.
Hi, I'm Janelle Hale, founder and CEO of the National Breast Cancer Foundation. No one should face breast cancer alone. When I was diagnosed 36 years ago, there was no internet, and I had to make a decision with little information. Early detection saved my life. It could save yours too. To learn what every woman needs to know about breast cancer, visit nbcf.org/hope.
A promise was made, a promise that hit the beaches of Normandy, a vow that captured Iwo Jima, a contract that weathered Tet, a pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq, an IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans. DAV fights to keep that promise, so all veterans and their families get the benefits and support they earned. For help, visit DAV.org.
I'll be right back.
Our conversation on tariffs continues right after we get a check on the first alert forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. You can see from the wave heights here, just on this still image of the KCK webcam, fairly high, and those kind of waves hitting the shoreline there causing some rip currents. So we had rip current advisories for all the beaches up and down the Sun Coast. So that is going to expire for us tomorrow as winds will lessen up somewhat. Beautiful sunset tonight. And as far as viewer photos go, Norm setting this one in of Sarasota Bayfront. Some fair weather cumulus clouds off in the distance. Norm, yes, cool winter day as well. The red tide, nothing to laugh about here, is coming back now along some of the Suncoast waters. In fact, showing up in Sarasota County, mainly from New Pass southward, but more so from Venice down into Charlotte Harbor. Those numbers fairly high, medium categories there from Lee County near Fort Myers northward through Charlotte Harbor. 22 samples showing up as some background to medium concentrations. We don't need that as we enter into spring break for a lot of folks. As far as the snow goes, it continues now into Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and upstate New York tonight. This is just one in a series of nor'easters that's going to cause all sorts of headaches over the next few days. Another one is going to go on, it looks like on Monday and Tuesday of next week. For us, some cold weather, frost advisories, freeze warnings in effect to the north, and high fire danger for us, possibility as a result of low humidity again tomorrow. 56 degrees right now with the wind out of the northwest. It makes it feel all that much cooler out there. So winter has come back with a vengeance here along the Sun Coast after an extremely warm February. 64 the high today only, well below the average of 75. This morning's low was 55. We'll be about 10 degrees colder than that tomorrow. High pressure works its way in from the east here. And again, this high pressure ridge will dominate the weather over much of the southeast throughout Friday and into Saturday. It's going to block anything from entering into the picture. But then, as we approach the weekend, Saturday, a system develops in the Gulf and the lower Mississippi Valley. They merge and bring us a good chance for more showers and thunderstorms on Sunday, some of which could be strong to severe. So we'll have to keep an eye on that Sunday afternoon and Sunday night. The forecast tomorrow, plenty of sunshine. There'll be some high clouds occasional, but lots of sunshine around. And temperatures well below average, right around 69 for your high tomorrow with a north wind, as that north wind will keep things on the chilly side. By 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, 51 degrees, but the feels like temperature will be more like 42 at that time, and we are expecting temperatures to be a little bit warmer on Saturday morning, but still in the 40s. Well, the Futurecast showing this storm slow and winding down, even through Friday and Saturday. Still some snow wrap around that area of low pressure. And then we have two low pressures merging over the northeast on Monday and Tuesday. And guess what? More heavy snow expected across parts of New York, up into Boston, and parts of Maine, all the way into New York, western portions of New York and Pennsylvania, too. They'll be getting some moderate to heavy snowfall there. Temperatures have cooled down now. Into the 30s, 31 degrees in Detroit. It's 28 in Indianapolis, and temperatures in the 20s and 30s over the northern plains and northern Rockies. And 62, though, in Denver. Things warming up there. And Dallas, 66 degrees. So here it is for boaters tomorrow. Not as windy. We'll have northeast winds at 15 knots to start today. They'll subside in the afternoon, and seas will be running right around 2 feet with a light chop out there. Water temperature has cooled down to 69 at its peak. During the month of February, it got up to 78 degrees. Mostly fair right now, colder for tomorrow morning to start things off. Wind chills will be in the upper 30s. Actual low temperatures right around 45 to 50. Closer to the beach will be right around 50. Saturday looks good, 76 for your high. And then increasing clouds on Sunday, a good chance for showers and storms later on in the day. And then continuing through Sunday night, temperatures cool down once again next week. Alan will be back with his guests right after this. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Chef Bob. Watch Aprons in the Kitchen every Wednesday morning on ABC7, where we'll be serving up the most awesome dishes. Then stop by your neighborhood Publix, pick up the recipe card and all the ingredients.
Alex Karras Lincoln's 40th anniversary sale. Please join us in welcoming the two newest additions to the Lincoln lineup, our flagship luxury sedan, the 2018 Lincoln Continental, and the totally redesigned 2018 Lincoln Navigator, featuring 450 horsepower, 10-speed transmission, and many best-in-class features. Alex Karras Lincoln, where our mission statement is consistent commitment, every client, every time. Located 2 miles north of the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport on US 41.
It's time to take a road trip.
Alabama's got 100 road trips. And if you love the sun, you're gonna love Mobile, where Mardi Gras is king, and the accommodations will make you feel like royalty. You can take a little drive, explore Dauphin Island, or explore the past. We're talking the USS Alabama. Check out these big guns. Alabama's got 100 road trips. Plan yours at alabama.travel.
Which one you gonna take?
My name is Haley. I have Fragile X syndrome. I work with Chartwells at Einstein's and FAU. I like being up front and interacting with students. The students are very nice and very hungry. Having a job is a big ticket for independence.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to disabilitieswork.employflorida.com.
Stay connected to your clients and new customers using ABC7 Digital Media Services. Our team of professionals provide a wide array of digital services to help you get the most out of your website. We specialize in building and helping you maintain the most effective digital solutions for your business. It's vital that your online presence stands out, so our experts will equip you with the best resources available. Trust ABC7 Digital Media Services to give you the right tools to grow your business. Watch ABC7 wherever you are. Just search ABC7 on your streaming device to keep up with the Suncoast from the comfort of your couch. Download ABC7 now to watch us on TV anytime you want. ABC7, we're here for you wherever you are.
Welcome back. We are talking about President Trump's tariffs on imported aluminum and steel. And joining us for more are Michael Snipes, an economics professor at Sarasota Manatee, Steve Sabato, a longtime journalist, and Frank Patty of the Sarasota Republican Party. And Frank, I'm going to start with you. We're going to talk about the politics of a little bit. And you both referred to it, that this is something that the president campaigned on. He has been quite vocal about long before he went into politics for 20 years. On the other hand, I mean, this is a man who imported tons and tons of Chinese steel himself to build the Trump properties in Las Vegas and in Chicago. And yet the base of the Republican Party is all for him doing this.
He did that as a businessman, and the best thing to secure a hen house is to get the fox there. And he knows exactly where this is coming from. If I make the There is a law of comparative advantage, and that basically states in economics is that you produce what you can economically and trade for the rest, except defense, transportation, and communication. We violated all of that.
Right, but Steve, a lot of people find this populist decision and move a little bit hypocritical if he built most of his buildings in the United States on Chinese steel.
Well, you know, he, if nothing else, has proven that he's got Teflon in his skin, and he has the ability to not be held accountable for things that some other presidents might be. So, in terms of politics and public opinion, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that this is really going to hurt him.
So what happens, and several members of Congress, including in the Senate, have already said that they are going to introduce legislation to prevent this from happening. I mean, this is his own party that's trying to do that. Do you really want to get into a fight with the Republican Party and the majority in an election year to try to derail this?
Well, the answer is obvious. Yes, he loves a fight, and I think at the end of the day, the Republican leadership will not challenge him on this. I think they recognize that it is a core part of his popularity in places like Ohio and Michigan and Pennsylvania, and there may be some rattling of swords right now, but when it comes down to it, I don't think that you'll see any challenges of any note from the Congress.
If I could add to that also, I think you're 100% right. I think there's going to be a lot of noise coming out and so on for these senators and congressmen to please part of their constituency. I don't think they'll move on this thing and take the president on head on.
So, Michael, game this out. What is the economic impact on American workers and American consumers if you have the tariffs at the levels that we've talked about? I think it was 25% for steel, 10% for aluminum, and if there's retaliation, what is it likely to look like, especially if we exclude Canada and Mexico from the equation?
Well, when you're dealing with international relations and trade agreements with other countries, you really have to think big picture. And so if we exclude Canada and we exclude Mexico, like has been proposed, but we still impose tariffs on all of these other countries, well, it's not like there's no trade between Canada and Germany, and there's no trade between France and Mexico. So that could be one avenue that, again, in a very big picture where all these countries are interconnected, okay, we might give an exception or a pass to Canada or Mexico, but they might be able to retaliate through trade agreements that they have with Germany, or that Mexico might have with Italy, for example.
Right. So what does that mean to us? What does that mean for a price of a car here or a can of beer here? What will consumers here see?
Well, the economics on it is pretty straightforward, that if we introduce tariffs, it's going to increase prices. And the more tariffs we have, and that's the whole reason why we have free trade agreements, is because it tries to keep prices down. If we relax those restrictions and we allow for tariffs, it brings the prices up. And so if we have retaliatory tactics by Europe, for example, then that's really just something that's just going to serve to increase prices more, because they're relaxing their free trade agreements.
So, gentlemen, what are we to make of it? If a lot of people around here are saying go get them, but very soon out we're going to see the cost of our cars and other products go up.
I think you're absolutely right, Alan. I think when you look at our cost of living, when you look at the suppressed prices, when you go to Walmart, when you look at manufactured goods, at some point the American public's going to have to decide whether jobs and employment are worth having higher prices for. So all of these cheap products that we buy that are made overseas have cost us jobs here at home, and ultimately the decision may have to be one where we look at jobs at home versus higher prices.
So Frank, let me add to that, because right now the Fed is already signaling concern about inflation. So we have prices that are at least beginning to creep up, and the cost of living and salaries have not really kept up to match that, and possibly the cost of other products because of these tariffs going up, that's not something that's going to sit with people around here.
It may not, but there may be a growth in our economy that overcomes that. Remember, if we start producing at home more of our own products, then that produces more jobs and more income. So we may be able to overcome the price. You're going to have an amount of inflation. How long has the Fed been saying there, we should have at least 2% inflation? Now they got their 2%, and they're crying in the beer to stop it.
You're the economist.
Yeah, and I think what we need to do is if this is intended to try and protect steel and aluminum industries in the United States, one of the things that we need to take into account is just how big those industries are in the United States, and it's just a fact that steel and aluminum manufacturing in the United States is a fraction of what it was in the past. It's just not a big part of our economy anymore. So we're focusing on a fairly narrow slice of the economy, and a piece of the economy that's small to begin with. So what effect is this really going to have in terms of prices? Well, it's going to increase the price of steel and aluminum. But if what we're doing is focusing on a very narrow part of the economy, then we're ignoring the lion's share of the economy.
Which means that this is really more about politics than it is about economics.
It may be international politics in sense. I get the feeling he's using this as a stick to wake the Europeans up, the Japanese and the Chinese. Those deficits are real.
Well, let me ask you a very short-term question. A very wise person pointed out to me today that the Port of Manatee does a fair share of business in terms of importing aluminum from Argentina. That's local jobs and local companies that may well be hurt by this. Those are jobs on the line around here, Frank. Should people be holding their breath?
I don't think so at this point. I think all speculation is just that at this point. We have to see what gels out of this, what he sits down, negotiates, what he pulls back on. We don't know. I mean, we're all guessing at this table. The president's not a fool, okay? The president may do some things that we consider erratic here and then. He's a smart businessman. He's not foolish. He knows where he's going. I don't think he's going to do something that's going to increase prices greatly or hurt the economy. After all, he's got the tax cut in there that's done really well in the economy. I don't think he wants to destroy that.
Okay. We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment.
Rugs as Art. You know the name. You know the building. But do you know what's inside? Yes, Rugs as Art is Florida's #1 area rug superstore. But there is so much more. Amazing furniture, accessories, and art. All this and more. Come see for yourself. You'll love our personal touch and be pleasantly surprised by our affordable prices. Rugs as Art and more. There is so much more to explore.
Don't allow your weight to threaten your health or control your future. Excess weight or obesity can cause emotional and physical health risks. But you can take control. The Your Weight Matters campaign offers free resources and tips to help you measure and understand your weight. Take the Your Weight Matters Challenge. The free toolkit prepares you to speak with a healthcare provider about your weight. Your weight does matter. Take the challenge and take control today.
Are you a soccer mom or dad? Regardless of their age or experience level, when your kids play soccer or any other sport, there's one person on the sideline who is key to help recognize and seek medical care for sports-related concussion. It's you. You need to know the signs and symptoms of concussion, and you need to act if you think your child has been injured. Remember, when in doubt, sit them out. To learn more, go to cdc.gov/concussion. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004.
Each day, researchers make discoveries that bring us closer to the moment when all cancer patients can become survivors. Their progress is made possible with the help of clinical trials. Clinical trials are the brightest torch researchers have to light their way towards better treatments. And if you've been diagnosed with cancer, they may be your brightest ray of hope. Speak with your doctor and visit standuptocancer.org/clinical trials to learn more. Together, we can stand up for all of us.
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blog, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. Michael, very simple question to you. Best case, worst case scenario?
Well, worst case scenario is we end up with a trade war, and we end up with a multinational trade war in which a lot of the agreements that we have with a lot of other countries get dropped, and then prices of all imports start to go up. That would be worst case scenario. Best case scenario, and I think that we all agree here, is that this is really kind of being used as a political tool, that maybe he wins a political battle and kind of walks back on some of his stances that he has from an economic standpoint.
Frank, you said that you are by and large a free trader here, but and I think everybody on both sides of the political aisle say that we have a particular problem, at least with China, in terms of dumping steel not only here but around the world. But do you still have your concerns about the concerns that Michael has?
I have the same concerns as Michael has, definitely, but and I think it is more of a political ploy, but I think China has to be brought to the table. Not only do they dump, but they subsidize. And China is playing a game of upgraded mercantilism at this point. It has been modernized that beautifully, and we're paying for that.
Steve, there is another calculation here, and we're about to talk about North Korea in primetime headlines. We need China's help in terms of keeping North Korea in check. I don't know why we want to kind of make our relations with China more difficult at this point.
Well, I mean, I don't think we really want to get into a trade war with China. I think this is a bit of bravado. I think it's a campaign promise that has now been kept, and we're only in the first act here. The world is flat, and our relationships with China are much too complex to risk going into some sort of trade war with.
Frank, are you also concerned about the help that we need with China on other issues?
China has helped us not one iota anywhere.
Actually, the president says that the Chinese have been helpful to a point.
Well, in trying to get them the help, that's the nicest thing you can say.
Okay.
But I don't see it.
We have to leave it there, but before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show on Sheriff Knight's proposal to have retired law enforcement officers and veterans work and protect schools. They would carry concealed weapons but be employed by the school district. Some love the idea, others don't think adding more guns in the schools are the answer. We went to Facebook to hear your thoughts, and Michelle says, yes, 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 great idea. They are trained and have years of experience. Keep our kids safe. Catherine says, I think it is a good idea, but much better than arming teachers. Teachers don't want to carry guns in school. They want to teach. Let people who are trained in firearms, law enforcement, and military protect students. Diane says, you still have the problem of asking a guard with a regular gun to go up against someone with an assault-type rifle. That hardly seems fair. Ban the AR-15 and guns like it. Michael says, isn't it sad that in this day and age we have to consider this in our schools? We need to have real gun law reform. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired. Just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank all our guests for being here tonight. Michael Snipes, an economics professor at USF Sarasota Manatee, Steve Sabato, our longtime journalist, and Frank Patty of the Sarasota Republican Party. When we return, we'll have a discussion about tariffs and how it will affect us specifically here on the Suncoast, plus more details on the alleged affair between Stormy Daniels and President Trump.
What if you had a medical emergency away from home?
My chest hurts. I can't breathe.
What you need is Mobile Help, America's premier mobile medical alert system. Most systems only work at home, but with Mobile Help, you get help outside the home with coverage nationwide on one of the largest cellular networks at the press of a button. Call the number on your screen for a free full-color brochure. We'll send you everything you need, including this base station, the patented mobile device, and the waterproof pendant and wrist button. You can also add the fall button that automatically detects falls and signals help. Call today and receive a risk-free 30-day trial. There is no equipment to buy and no long-term contract. For a limited time, you will also receive a free emergency key box with your plan purchase. Remember, Mobile Help keeps you safe coast to coast.
Call 1-800-916-8638. That's 1-800-916-8638.
This is the story of a boy who was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Every child follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow, to learn, to belong, a place to forge their future. Because while many doors open, these doors transform. They did for us. Support your local Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
Welcome back. As we just discussed on the trapezoid, President Trump wants to put tariffs on steel and aluminum. So the question is, how does that affect you? And here to break it down is Michael Snipes, an economics professor at USF Sarasota Manatee. Michael, let's start this way. Sometimes our basic understanding of economic terms is not what it should be. So explain, what is a tariff? Is it a tax like Congress would pass?
In essence, it is. It really is. It's a tax. But it's a specific tax. It's a tax on things that we buy from other countries. It's a tax on imports. And so if we are taxing imports, then that really does kind of beg the question, well, why do we import things in the first place? And generally speaking, we import things from other countries because it's cheaper to buy them from other countries than it is to produce them here in the United States. And
or that we want them. I mean, there's something about, foreign automobiles or clothing or textiles or whatever.
Sure, and that's certainly something that could influence what we buy and how much we buy and who we buy it for. It could be just our own preferences, right? But if what we're doing is we're essentially putting a tax on these imported goods, then what that's going to do is, well, if we're buying goods from other countries because they're cheaper, putting a tariff on them will make those imported goods more expensive. And well, we saw a clip this last week of a pundit coming up pointing up.
Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary.
Yes, bringing up a can of soup, saying that, well, okay, yes, it might increase prices, but in a can of soup, maybe it might increase the price by a penny, or a can of beer or a can of soda might increase it by the price, by a penny, and that's true, right? But our economy is more than just soup and beer, right? We use steel and we use aluminum in lots of different things. And so a 25% tariff might show up as a 1 cent increase in the can of soup. But if what we're talking about is we're talking about the steel that's used in a car, and we're using $1,000 worth of steel in a car, now all of a sudden that penny that came from a soup might be $250.
But what we have heard from, let's say, auto workers or the auto industry for years is that we allow goods from, whether it's China or Japan, to come into this country, and we buy them because in some cases they're cheaper, but they tax or have tariffs on products going into those countries, and that, I think, is the rub. Could you help people understand that a little bit?
Sure. So say that again. What was it?
That what is so unfair is that we take a lot of things in from China and Japan and so forth, but when we try to sell cars into those countries, they put tariffs on it that make it impossible.
And that was one of the things that we kind of touched upon in the panel, is that some of the things that China does, you could argue that they are unfair, And I think that we were all in agreement that applying a tariff might not necessarily be the best way to do it. I mean, we have, global and international trade organizations that are designed to address things like this. Bring it up in those situations, right? Bring it up with those organizations, and maybe don't try and do something a little bit more drastic like a tariff.
Last point for a funny pun.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, well, what does this mean for Floridians? What does this mean for us here? And we don't really have any steel or aluminum manufacturing here in Florida, so really all we're going to get in Florida is probably just anticipating higher prices. And so from our perspective, really this whole tariff agreement might amount to nothing more than a hill of beans.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Michael will join us every Thursday to help us understand the economics of it all and how it affects us here on the Suncoast. When we return, our primetime headlines. Stay with us.
My name is Stefan Campagna. We're Ben Gates and Dramus, and here is your law tip of the week. If you've been injured in a car accident, the state of Florida only gives you a specific amount of time to file a claim. So act now, give us a call.
Hi, I'm Chef Bob. Watch Aprons in the Kitchen every Wednesday morning on ABC7, where we'll be serving up the most awesome dishes. Then stop by your neighborhood Publix, pick up the recipe card and all the ingredients.
I heard about the Dotoli Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotoli Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was. I can tell you that you will not find a finer, more professional team of clinicians anywhere in the world.
According to a new survey by U.S. News and World Report, 3 of Alabama's top 4 hotels and resorts are part of the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail Resort Collection. The Grand Hotel Marriott Resort in Point Clear, the Battle House Renaissance Mobile Hotel and Spa, and the Renaissance Birmingham Ross Bridge Golf Resort and Spa. Hey, we didn't invent Southern hospitality, we just offer more of it. Visit rtjgolf.com/resorts to find out more.
It's been about a month, and I can honestly say I've seen the change in me. I went from being a depressed girl who didn't want help to this happy, caring girl who loves helping other people. I just really hope that people that went through what I went through get the help that they need, because their story is important and they are loved. Thank you so much for everything.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
Checking primetime headlines, the White House is now dealing with the scandal involving Stormy Daniels. Reports are Press Secretary Sanders is catching the president's ire because of her responses that essentially admitted that there is an existence of a non-disclosure agreement. CNN's Drew Griffin reports.
With details of the alleged affair, the pre-election payment, and even the acknowledgement from White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders that the president was involved.
I can share that that the arbitration was won in the president's favor.
President Trump and his private attorney Michael Cohen find themselves caught in a perfect storm of their own making. Legally, their next move could be to enforce the non-disclosure agreement to silence Stormy Daniels by bringing her to court. But bringing her to court would risk revealing all the sordid details in public. They are stuck. Legal experts say Michael Cohen's mistakes include admitting he paid Stormy Daniels, whose real name is Stephanie Clifford, $130,000, drawing up a sloppy, now public non-disclosure agreement, missing Donald Trump's signature, and sending the payment through a secretive Delaware corporation that has his own name attached to it. All this has, according to Clifford's new attorney, made the rush to silence his client before the election look like a legal hack job.
The way that this was handled
and the documentation, quite honestly, this was amateur hour, Anderson. This is very, very sloppy. It's very, very messy. It is shocking, quite honestly, that something of this magnitude was handled in this way in the waning days of the 2016 presidential election.
The legal fight to ensue between President Trump, Michael Cohen, and a porn actress amounts to a contract dispute between private parties. The bigger picture, and perhaps bigger storm, now focuses on what the president knew and when. Campaign finance watchdog attorney Paul Ryan says the just-filed lawsuit provides a trail of allegations that the president knew of the plan to keep Stephanie Clifford silent.
We have Stephanie Clifford in legal filings in a court saying Donald Trump initiated and directed all of this. So that's the first important fact. Second new important factual allegation that the whole purpose of this negotiation, Donald Trump's purpose for engaging in these negotiations, was to help ensure his victory in the 2016 election.
According to the complaint filed by Common Cause with the Federal Elections Commission and the U.S. Department of Justice, that $130,000 undisclosed payment amounts to an illegal campaign contribution or expenditure. In other words, a crime.
If this FEC does not investigate, and that's all we're asking for, does not open an investigation into this matter, this FEC is hopeless.
Two White House officials are blaming the president's personal legal counsel for the Stormy Daniels legal drama. Some in the White House are apparently frustrated. The controversy has landed squarely in the lap of those who work in the White House, and they say that they had nothing to do creating it. Former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort is again pleading not guilty to new charges from special counsel Robert Mueller.
Hey, traitor! Here's your flag. Russian's flag. Traitor! Traitor!
Manafort is facing new federal charges of fraud and tax evasion. His trial is set for July 10th. Prosecutors say the trial could last up to 2 weeks. The charges came to light during the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Manafort also pleaded not guilty to related charges in Washington last week. That trial will start in September. The bank fraud charges alone carry a possible prison sentence of up to 30 years and a fine of up to $1 million. Just before our show started, President Trump said South Korea would be making a major statement about North Korea this evening. Well, the major statement is President Trump will meet with North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un after the dictator extended an invitation. South Korean's national security advisor says Trump will meet with the North Korean leader in May, and we'll have more on this coming up tonight at 11. That's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.